Hello there, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the Thames Valley. People in a block of flats in Banbury say they're trapped in their homes. The building's only lift has been broken for more than a month.
You shouldn't have to think before you go out, oh, can I go down the stairs? If I got a bad day, I just don't bother.
School children in Great Bedwin call for Thames Water to clean up its act after a sewage overflow ruined their science trip to the River Kennet.
Also this evening, body armour for police dogs. The new vests helping to keep them safe after a rise in knife attacks in Wiltshire.
And sourdough or sour faux, a warning from a bakery in Pangbourne for shoppers to use their loaf when it comes to imitation bread. Good evening. People who live in a block of flats in Banbury have told ITV News Meridian they feel imprisoned in their own homes after the building's only lift broke down, leaving some of them stranded.
The lift has been out of action for more than a month, despite repeated promises of a fix from Sanctuary Housing, which runs the building, and an increase in the monthly charges residents pay. Juliet Fletcher has been to meet some of those affected.
June Butler is 80 years old and suffers from vertigo. She's struggling to get up and down the 34 steps to her flat in Banbury because the only lift in the building has been broken for 5 weeks. She says she's put her life on hold.
Well, some days I can't go out. You know, I just don't feel like going down them stairs and back up and, you know, you can't carry nothing. So I just stay in some days. You shouldn't have to think before you go out, oh, can I go down the stairs? If I got a bad day, I just don't bother.
Residents reported the fault to Sanctuary Housing, but the repair has yet to be carried out. Leslie Taylor lives on the second floor and has just had an operation on her foot. She says it's just not good enough.
I had it done last Friday, so it's a week ago, and it took me 40 minutes to get up here because I've never used crutches before. I begged them to make sure the lift was ready, and it isn't, so I've been out once since then, and that was to the doctor's surgery to have a new dressing put on, and that's all I've done because it's getting in and out is almost impossible.
Some of the flats here are rented out and others are under shared ownership. The residents have just seen an increase in their service charge, yet they say the front door has been broken for around 4 months and now the lift is unusable. A spokesman for Sanctuary Housing said the door lock is a specific type and will be fixed as soon as possible. About the lift, they said, "We're sorry it has taken longer than expected to restore the lift and for the inconvenience residents have been caused. Our contractor expects the specialist parts required to arrive on Wednesday and the repairs will then be completed immediately. In the meantime, we're continuing to offer residents additional support and assistance if required, which includes the offer of a temporary move to alternative accommodation for anyone who would feel more comfortable." June's not able to have her new great-grandson over to visit because they can't get a buggy up the stairs. She and the other residents here just want to be able to get on with everyday life. Juliet Fletcher, ITV News, Banbury.
Firefighters were called to a field near Basingstoke last night after several hay bales caught fire. Crews from Tadley Fire Station tackled the fire, thought to have been started by disposable barbecues found at the scene. The fire service is warning people to be aware of the risk of wildfires during the dry weather.
Conservative MP for Winchester, Steve Bryan, has announced he will stand down at the next election. Mr Bryan, who was first elected in 2010, said it was time to consider a new chapter in his life. He announced his decision in a letter to the chairman of the Winchester Conservative Association.
Children are adding their voices to the call for water companies to clean up their acts and stop dumping sewage into our rivers. Pupils at Great Bedwin Primary School are writing to their local MP after a science trip to explore the River Kennet was ruined because of a sewage discharged by Thames Water.
The chalk stream is one of only a few hundred in the world and a site of special scientific interest. And ecologists say it's not good enough. Charlotte Bray-Edney has our story.
We are completely devastated and would like you to know about our concerns. Thames Water have been pumping raw sewage into our rivers. I am disgusted you have let this go over your head and ignored the
Tough words from the mouths of children. But these pupils from Great Bedwin Primary School got to see firsthand what sewage discharges look like after a field trip to a nearby chalk stream was spoiled.
I thought we were going to have a great time, but when we got there, I was really upset to see the water was changing colour. By the time we were going back to the minibuses, it was completely brown and it looked disgusting.
There was sewage being let into our river, which we weren't allowed to go in because we would get very sick. Really disappointed and sad, really, yeah. It was quite horrible to see our river all blackened and just not surviving.
The trip was part of ongoing work the Year 4 class have been doing about local wildlife and how to protect it.
Beyond disappointment, really, to discover that all the things we've been learning about respecting our environment, we got there to find that the river was being polluted by a bigger company that we had no control over.
The trip to the River Kennet, one of England's most important chalk streams, was organised by a local environmental group who said the scene on the day was a far cry from these clear waters.
That sewer lid was popping and literally spewing raw sewage and sanitary products and wet wipes straight into a SSSI chalk stream.
Water companies now have to disclose when sewage is being spilled, and anyone can check online. It's left many worried that on prior visits, children may have been getting into polluted waters.
Yeah, it is a crazy situation to be in. That could have been happening because you can only go with the information you have, because pollution isn't always immediately visible.
Thames Water has committed to a 50% reduction in discharges by 2030 and is upgrading the sewage treatment works at Marlborough. A spokesperson told us stopping discharges altogether will take time and sustained investment. However, each step we take on this journey is a move in the right direction.
It's been just over 6 months since Thames Water launched its real-time map of when and where sewage discharges are happening. And the results have been nothing short of eye-opening and are already clearly having an impact on how we view and behave in and around our waterways.
They've also rallied voices for change. Charlotte Breredney, ITV News, Great Bedouin.
Well, meanwhile, Labour leader Keir Starmer was in Oxfordshire today visiting RAF Brize Norton to mark Armed Forces Day, which is tomorrow. Well, while at the base, he was asked about sewage discharges in the River Thames by Thames Water and asked how his party would tackle the issue of overflows into our rivers and our seas.
We see this year after year after year and think for so many people, whether it's rivers or beaches, this is something that is so fundamental to people's enjoyment of their environment. I think we've got to be a lot tougher with the regulation. I want to see tougher enforcement and I want to see accountability going to the very top of the water companies that are responsible for this.
Oxfordshire could become one of only a handful of councils to be taking part in a new scheme to cut congestion caused by roadworks.
Well, under the plan, those who dig up the roads for non-emergencies would be charged £2,500 a day to carry out work at the busiest times on the most heavily used roads.
Well, figures show there are 30,000 sets of road closures a year in the county, so it could make a big impact, say the council. Mike Pearce sent this from Oxford City Centre.
Well, talking to drivers, they say there have never been so many roadworks. Now, that's partly due to the current pothole crisis, but also utilities making up for the pandemic when they were unable to work. Drivers say something urgently needs to be done.
Well, every road you go on, there seems to be roadworks of some description, yeah.
Would it help if there could be something to do to reduce them, or certainly at less busy times?
It would be good if they weren't all happening at the same time. You know, because it seems to, whichever road you go on, you know, at any stage of the journey, there's going to be road work. So if they could sort of just liaise with each other, so there weren't going to be more than one hold up on your journey.
There are loads of roadworks at the moment. There's so many potholes, they really need fixed. So, you know, you can go down one road and it's fine, and then the next day it's all blocked off, and so you have to do a big detour. So, I don't know, we've got to live with it, I suppose, because I really want the potholes sorted. But it is very disruptive.
Well, Oxfordshire County Council says it wants to help by taking part in a new government scheme that would mean more roadworks were done out of the rush hour. At the moment, everybody who wants to close a lane to do roadworks has to apply for a permit. The council wants to charge up to £2,500 a day for those who want to work in the rush hour. They say it could make a real difference.
It's called lane rental. At the moment, utilities and other companies who want to do works on our roads need a permit. They pay for that, but the permit only covers the cost of the permit scheme. This is a new power that enables us to identify the 5% busiest bits of road in the county, and then to charge utilities and other operators up to £2,500 a day to work on those roads at that time.
It's all about really shifting when people are doing the work and making the rush hour easier for the driver.
Yeah, and it has several overlapping benefits. Firstly, it incentivises the operators to plan, to stick to the plan that they've given us, which they don't always do at the moment, to get things done more quickly so they don't have to pay more money for it, to do it not in the busiest times, to do it properly so they don't have to come back and pay more money to do it again. And it raises revenue, which, just to be clear, has to go back into highways improvements. This is not just a general cash-raising scheme.
Well, to put all this into context, Oxfordshire County Council say they receive something like 30,000 applications a year to close roads to repair them and to do vital work. They say they hope the new scheme will be up and running, possibly in the next few months. Mike Pearce, ITV News, Oxford.
I mean, you can kind of see the sense in that because, yes, some of this work obviously has to be done, but it does get frustrating for drivers when the roads seem to be dug up time and time again.
And then when there's no one working on them, that's really bad when that happens.
Don't start me. After the late shift. No, don't start me. Now you're watching ITV News Meridian in the Thames Valley. Stay with us. Still to come on the programme tonight.
Summer festivals, Glastonbury this weekend, Reading on its way soon. But could these events be cleaner and greener? A message for music lovers and organisers.
And high pressure is still dominating, promising us a fine weekend. But if you're struggling with the hot temperatures, something a little fresher is on the way. I'll have all the details for you later in the programme.
Good news for anybody who wants to sleep at night. Let's get a check on the website details. If you want to get in touch, of course, here they are on the screen. itv.com/Meridian for more from us. If you have a story you think we ought to be covering, just give us a ring. 0808 1010 095 is our number. And you can search for us online. We are, as ever, on Facebook, Twitter and on Instagram.
Now, police dogs in Wiltshire are getting some extra protection. Like regular officers, they can now wear body armour, which will protect them against bullets and knife blades.
Well, the vests have been specially designed to allow the dogs to move around easily. Ken Goodwin has been watching them in action.
Elvis the police dog is wearing his new body armour, and he's on the trail of a criminal.
Last chance, if you don't come out, I'm going to send my dog!
Hiding in a storeroom of a derelict building is one of the dog handling teams. Elvis has him cornered.
I would give myself up when the handler shouted in the first place before we sent the dog. Because you know the dog's going to be coming in and the dog will find you. So it's best to give yourself up beforehand.
Elvis's canine vest offers protection against bullets and blades.
Elvis, the one that you saw, had a catapult shot at him. I don't know what injury there was caused. I don't think it was too bad. But again, if the body armour was on, it might protect them from something like that. And a number of years ago, like probably 10, 12 years ago, there was a dog stabbed in Wiltshire as well. So we have had incidents where they've been injured.
All of the Wiltshire Constabulary's general purpose and firearm support dogs have been provided with them.
It's very similar technology to the body armour that we wear as police officers. So it's got Kevlar plates inside and will protect them from a variety of different things. It predominantly will protect the vital organs. So we did lots of testing, lots of trialling. We've had loads of different sets sent to us to trial. And the set that we have gone for isn't too cumbersome, so it will protect the main organs for the dog, but also allow them to be comfortable and still be able to move freely, and from a welfare perspective as well, try and keep them as comfy and cool as possible.
Another day's practice over. Elvis has left the building. Just time for a well-deserved drink. Ken Goodwin, ITV News, Wiltshire.
Good work, Elvis. Now the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. Here's Gamal.
Coming up, guilty of murder, the gunman who shot a policeman in a custody cell. Luis de Zoyzis smuggled a revolver into a police station following his arrest. Still in handcuffs, he opened fire on Sergeant Matt Ratner. Tonight, the unanimous verdict as the murder trial concludes. Also ahead, bank bosses summoned to Downing Street. What help for borrowers as the mortgage crisis deepens? And all the latest from Glastonbury as the music gets underway. We speak to first-timers Rick Astley and Maisie Peters. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Well, let's talk more about Glastonbury then. It is, as we just heard, well underway with Reading Festival and Victoria set to take place in August as well. But it's claimed that combined, they'll all produce more than 25,000 tonnes of waste each year and every year. That's according to the Greener Festival report.
It is an industry which is facing its own serious financial pressures. So what do festivals need to do to match the green ambitions of many of their ticket holders? Nick Smith has been investigating.
Festival crowds can be some of the most eco-conscious among us, but despite the messages of environmentalism that many of these events portray, the fact remains that the average festival produces 500 tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions, with each attendee leaving an average of 3 kilograms of waste for each day they attend. It's an issue organisers are acutely aware of. The Isle of Wight Festival is one of the first major festivals of the summer and took place earlier this month. The head of the event says they try to make improvements each year.
To start with, the land, we sowed the seed and we cut the grass and we put it into this machine that puts more electricity into the grid than we use at the festival. And it's an incredible achievement on behalf of everybody involved to make it happen, you know, and we don't have any landfill. We do everything possible to make it clean.
Recent years have seen a big reduction in single-use items. Many festivals now ban sales of plastic bottles, and Glastonbury, which is currently underway, won't permit disposable vapes on site this year. But these mini-cities of canvas can still pose major issues. A shocking 2/3 of festival goers leave their tents on sites around the country. Their components are difficult to recycle, so most end up in landfill.
Our members are doing a huge amount working on programming which is encouraging audiences to talk about sustainability and how they can be that change. And you look at the breakdown of where our biggest carbon footprint is, over 70% of that comes from audience transport and travel. So really the main thing that festivals need to do is to drive home some key messages to make more sustainable ways of getting to the events, because that's the biggest contributor to carbon footprint.
Glastonbury Festival draws in hundreds of thousands from all corners of the country, and organisers try to incentivise them not to travel by car. Its Bike to Site scheme, for instance, rewards those using it, like Caroline Wood, with a nicer camping spot with showers.
The festival does have a huge impact on the traffic and the pollution levels around the site. If we can do just our little bit by cycling into the festival, it's just one more unnecessary car. Bike to Glasgow do make it very, very easy to drop your luggage, so you don't have to worry about how you're going to get your rucksack and your tent onto site, because they help you with that.
Those organising these huge events say they'll keep striving to eventually make them net zero. But the key to cutting the impact they have on our environment rests on how prepared festival goers are to leave the smallest possible footprint. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Now, bread makers across the region are demanding new laws to protect some of their loaves from cheaper imitations.
Sourdough bread is often sold at a premium price because it can be longer and more complex to make. But some independent bakeries are worried other shops are ignoring its traditional recipe to speed up the process.
Well, they say that's leaving customers with an inferior product, which they describe as sour faux. James Webster reports.
When is sourdough bread not sourdough bread? According to traditional bakers, it shouldn't contain any commercial yeast, instead using just fermented flour and water to make it rise. That's how they've been making it here at Birch Bread in Pangbourne in Reading since it started out in a shipping container in Lucy Steele's back garden.
So our sourdough is 3 ingredients, it's water, salt and flour. And the supermarkets are quite often just not doing that. They're bypassing that whole system by putting baker's yeast in, which speeds up the process. You don't get that longevity in the bread, you don't get the flavour in the bread, and it's just it makes life very difficult for us. It takes us 3 days to make a sourdough, and it will take the supermarket hours if they cheat.
Just grab each side and you pull it out slightly until it's a rectangular shape.
Here at this bakery, I've been getting a hands-on demo of how to make sourdough.
And I'm going to grab the top and I'm going to roll it towards me and push down and back slightly.
It is a traditional method, which the Real Bread campaign wants new laws to protect.
You've rolled it onto your seam and now cornish pasty at the sides just to make it nice and neat.
They're worried about the shops selling products as containing or made with sourdough when they also contain other additives.
People are coming in and saying, well, hang on, I can get something that's the same cheaper in a supermarket. And we want people to know that actually what you're getting is a fundamentally different product. You go to a small independent bakery, you're helping to support more jobs per loaf, and you're getting something different and something we believe is better.
Without such protection, some independent bakeries say their prices are being undercut by products they feel are inferior.
It's very frustrating given the efforts we go to here to make proper, genuine sourdough. And it's hard, it's a hard environment, costs are high, we want to pay people a decent wage, and it's a long process. So we go to a lot of effort to give people what they want when they're looking for sourdough, and some other organisations are not doing that. They're just, sticking something in there and saying with sourdough or pretending it's sourdough, and it's very frustrating.
Getting legal protection to put an end to so-called sour faux will mean agreeing what should and shouldn't be in the mixture.
Getting the different parties to agree to a working definition moving forward is the most challenging thing here. Especially because the Real Bread campaign is facing a lot of opposition from very big players who have a lot of vested interest in making sure that that definition is broader than that is suggested by the Real Bread campaign.
But there is opposition from the government to defining the correct recipe of this dough too. It says it has no plans to introduce a legal definition of sourdough. Instead, it says the baking industry should agree a code of practice, but that could also prove hard to achieve. James Webster, ITV News.
Just want to eat some bread now.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, and I'm trying to keep away from carbs.
OK, sorry.
Smother it with butter.
I'm not, I'm just going to eat it. Sorry. Now, the Special Olympics World Games in Berlin are coming to a close this weekend, and our reporter Catherine Walker has been following our athletes' progress all week. We caught up with her for the last time this week, a little earlier on.
It's been a fantastic week here in Berlin, watching our region's athletes perform on the world stage. There's been tears of laughter, tears of joy, and even tears of frustration. But it will be a week that everyone here remembers for the rest of their life. This is the most inclusive sporting event in the world, and it's been a privilege to be here to share their stories and their achievements with you. Here's some of our favourite bits from this week in Berlin.
I'm so excited. All my hard work can finally paid off.
They've shut down the centre of Berlin for our athletes. That's what I'm talking about, inclusion.
I'm having so much fun. No words can explain how I'm feeling right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've been trying to be in this sport for ages, and yeah, I'm just so happy to be here.
I feel proud of myself and I feel joyful to be here in Berlin.
Let me tell you about the story of my life.
Let's go, Jamie, let's go.
Best Father's Day ever. Ever.
When I found out the results, I just burst into tears.
I'm gonna fess up now, I cried.
I feel like sports just touches things inside a human being. People always say sports brings people together, and I wholeheartedly agree. And just to see people get brought together by sports, and to just see people get brought together in general, is just an amazing thing.
we've really enjoyed featuring all the medals and the smiles this week, haven't we? It's
Yeah.
such an uplifting event.
Yeah, it's been emotional actually. I know for all the people involved, it's not just the athletes, but also for the families and for the coaches, and just seeing them being sort of slightly anxious on the way there, nervous about what's going to happen.
And just the sheer exhibition of it all, because they had all the fireworks and everything. Like Catherine Walker said there, they've made memories for a lifetime.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Right, shall we get a check on the weather forecast? Let's see if it is going to cool down enough to sleep at night. Here's Kate with the details.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello there, good evening. A hot and sunny weekend on the way for us, but if you're struggling in this rather humid conditions, then you'll be pleased to know it is going to feel a little bit fresher from next week onwards. Now, certainly high pressure still dominating things at the moment. It starts to slip away after Sunday, and that opens the door for a cold front to sweep through, introducing those fresher conditions. But for now, certainly through this evening, some late sunshine, then a dry, mostly clear night. Perhaps a little bit of low cloud, mist and murk in places, but it's the temperatures that are going to be the talking point tonight. It's yet another uncomfortable one with lows around 16 or 17 degrees. Now, tomorrow morning, I think any mist and murk soon clearing. We're back to the sunshine pretty quickly. Perhaps a little bit of patchy cloud through the afternoon might turn things hazy, but still a lot of sunshine and again feeling pretty hot. Highs around 27, maybe even seeing a 28 in places. Now, if you're wanting to cool off, then do head to the coast. Looking at the times of high water for tomorrow, sort of around late afternoon, so plenty of time to enjoy the sea. After that, the fine weather continues, perhaps the odd shower here and there, but it's those fresher conditions you'll enjoy. Still warm, but not as humid.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
And here's your pollen forecast for the next few days. Certainly grass pollen is still pretty high at the moment, but nettle pollen is now past its peak, but could still cause a few symptoms over the next few days.
And that is it from us for this evening. In a moment, the ITV EV News with Gamal Fambula.
Stacey will have your late update just after 10:30 from all of us here. Have a fantastic weekend. See you Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.